Hello everyone, I am the storyteller, and I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel also. Where are you from and what time are you watching? Now get comfortable and relax. It was my first week in the new apartment. Number 4B in a tired old building in Crestwood. Just me and my 5-year-old Lily, trying to start over after the divorce. I'd moved us here for a fresh start, a cheap place to rebuild. But I can't shake what happened to Anna Kessler, a single mom like me who lived in this same apartment 10 years ago. I found her story in police reports, tenant logs, and a diary shoved behind the radiator, and it's got me checking my locks every night. Anna's life unraveled because of a neighbor who watched her every move, who slipped into her world like a shadow and left her with a photo that broke her. I'm telling you her story because I'm starting to see him too, and I'm scared I'm next. Anna moved into 4B with her son Max in 2015, fresh off a messy breakup, her savings drained. Crestwood's a small town, the kind where everyone nods but nobody talks. And the apartment building was quiet, mostly retirees and night shift workers. She noticed him right away, the neighbor across the hall in 4C. Every time she left for work or came back with groceries, he was there, standing in his doorway, staring. He was older, maybe 50, with a thin face and eyes that didn't blink. Enough, always in the same gray sweater, like he never changed. He never spoke, never smiled, just watched, his gaze heavy like he was memorizing her. At first, Anna brushed it off. She was exhausted, juggling a waitressing job and Max's kindergarten schedule. No time for paranoia. But then her mail started disappearing. Bills, catalogs, a birthday card for Max gone from the locked box downstairs. She'd find it days later, tucked under her door, envelopes opened, contents untouched. She asked the landlord, Mr. Hensley, about the neighbor. He shrugged, said 4C was a loner, paid rent in cash, kept to himself. Anna started double locking her door, checking the peephole before stepping out, but the staring didn't stop. I found Anna's diary in my apartment, its pages creased, her handwriting tight with fear. "He's always there," she wrote 2 weeks after moving in. "I saw him last night just standing, watching me carry Max to bed." She started hearing knocks, soft, deliberate, at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., always when she was alone. She'd check the peephole, see nothing but the empty hallway, but the knocking kept coming, like a heartbeat in the walls. She told Hensley, who checked 4C, said the guy was quiet, harmless, probably just curious. But Anna wasn't buying it. "He knows when I'm home," she wrote. "I feel him through the walls." Things got worse. One night, Anna found a note slipped under her door. "You forgot to lock the back window." Her blood ran cold. She'd checked that window, a rusty thing in the kitchen, always locked. She ran to it, found it unlatched. The frame scratched like someone had pried it open. She nailed it shut, moved a bookcase in front of it, and started sleeping with a kitchen knife under her pillow. The next day, another note. "Max looks happy at the park." Anna hadn't taken Max to the park in weeks, but the note came with a photo, a blurry shot of Max on a swing taken from a distance. She called the police, showed them the note, the photo. They knocked on 4C's door, but nobody answered. The landlord let them in. Empty, not a stick of furniture, no sign anyone lived there. Hensley swore the tenant was paid up, but the police found nothing. Said maybe it was a prank. Anna's diary grew frantic. "He's in my head," she wrote. "I see him in the hallway, but when I look, he's gone." She started noticing things moved. Her keys on the wrong hook, Max's shoes by the door instead of the closet, her coffee mug turned upside down. She installed a deadbolt, but the knocking didn't stop, and the notes kept coming. "You're prettier when you sleep." She stopped sleeping, kept Max in her room, the lights on all night. She wrote to a friend, begging for a place to stay. But before she could leave, she found the photo that broke her. It was slipped under her door at 4 a.m., a Polaroid of Anna sleeping in her bed. Max curled beside her, taken from above, like someone stood over them. On the back, in sharp black ink, "You're never alone." Anna's diary stopped there, her last entry a scrawl. "I can't stay. He's inside. The police report I found said she called 911 that night, screaming about an intruder. But when they arrived, the apartment was empty. The door locked from the inside. Anna and Max were gone. No bags packed, no note, just the Polaroid left on the kitchen counter. The case went cold. The apartment listed as vacant, and 4C stayed empty, its rent mysteriously paid every month. I dug deeper, found tenant logs in the town library. 4C had a history. Tenants who left suddenly, complaining of being watched, of things missing. A woman in 2008 reported a man staring from the hallway, notes under her door. "I know you're home." A man in 2012 said he heard knocking, found photos of himself in his mailbox taken while he slept. Both moved out, and 4C was always vacant after, yet the landlord never listed it. I checked the building's records, found a name tied to 4C. The 1990s, Henry Voss, a recluse who died in the building. No family, no obituary. His rent payments continued. Cash mailed from nowhere, no return address. Last week I started noticing him. I was leaving for work, Lily at daycare, when I saw a man in the hallway, gray sweater, thin face, staring from 4C's doorway. I blinked, and he was gone. But my mail was missing that night. My electric bill, a postcard from my mom back under my door the next morning opened. I checked the pee-hole, saw nothing, but the knocking started. Soft at 3 a.m., like fingers tapping bone. I called Hensley, who said 4C's been empty for years, but I don't believe him. Last night I found a note under my Hannah. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you read this whole thing, so I'll just finish it here." It was a crisp October Tuesday in 2005, my sophomore year at Westbridge College, and I was half asleep in a lecture on the French Revolution when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I snuck a glance. "Tuna on rye for lunch? You left crumbs on your desk, in room 204. My stomach dropped. I'd eaten a tuna sandwich in the library that morning, alone, brushing crumbs off the desk in that exact room. Nobody was around. No friends, no classmates, not even my roommate, Jake. I texted him, asking if he was screwing with me. He swore he wasn't, said he'd been in econ class all morning. I forced a laugh, told myself it was a fluke, maybe a cafeteria worker who'd seen me. But the next day, another text hit. "Blue jacket looks good, but you spilled coffee on the sleeve." I checked my arm. There it was, a faint brown stain, still damp from a spill I hadn't noticed until now. The messages kept coming, every day, always from an unknown number. "You read page 47 of that Civil War book in the quad. You tied your left shoe twice before class. You hummed that Radiohead song in the shower. Each one was a needle, piercing the ordinary moments of my life. Eating, studying, walking across campus. I'd look around, heart racing, expecting to see someone watching, but it was just students, trees, the usual hum of Westbridge. I blocked the number, but the texts came from new ones, always untraceable, always knowing too much. I stopped telling Jake, stopped telling anyone, because their eyes said what I feared. I was paranoid, imagining things. By the second week, I was jumping at every buzz, checking my phone like it was a bomb. The texts turned sharper. "You shouldn't. Leave your dorm window open at night." I hadn't noticed it was open, but when I got back to Carver Hall, there it was, cracked just enough for a hand to slip through. I slammed it shut, locked it, and spent the night on the floor, staring at the ceiling, wondering who was out there. I started changing my routine, eating in different cafeterias, studying in random lecture halls, taking back paths to class. But the texts followed. "Nice try switching to the East Quad, but I saw you." I'd spin around, scanning the crowds, the shadows, but nobody stood out. Just faces lost in their own worlds. I went to campus security, showed them the messages, my hands shaking as I scrolled through dozens. The officer, a bored guy named Hargrove, said it was probably a prank, maybe an ex or a jealous classmate. I didn't have an ex, hadn't pissed anyone off that I knew of. He promised to look into it, but his tone said he wouldn't. That night, the text was different. "You shouldn't have told them. I'm closer now. I didn't sleep. kept my desk lamp on, my pocket knife under my pillow. I started noticing things. Footprints. The mud outside my dorm. A cigarette butt on the path I took to class. The feeling of eyes on my back when I walked alone. 3 weeks in, I couldn't take it. I had to know who was doing this. I called the number from the latest text, expecting a deadline, but it rang, then went to a generic voicemail. I searched online, found a reverse lookup site, and paid $10 to trace it. The result hit like a punch. The number was registered to a phone in Carver Hall, room 312. A dorm that had been empty since a fire in 1998 gutted the 3rd floor. Nobody lived there. Nobody could. I went to the housing office, asked about 312. The clerk, an older woman with tired eyes, said it was locked, used for storage, hadn't been opened in years. I pressed, asked about past residents. She dug through. Files found a name. Daniel Kerr, a student who'd lived there in '97, dropped out after the fire. No forwarding address, no record of him since. That night, I broke into 312. I waited until 2 a.m. when the dorm was quiet and pried the lock with a screwdriver from Jake's toolbox. The room was a time capsule. Charred walls, a rusted bed frame, a desk covered in dust. On the floor, half buried under ash, was a phone. An old Nokia, its screen cracked but glowing faintly when I picked it up. It buzzed in my hand. A new text. "You shouldn't be here." I dropped it, my breath catching, and backed out, locking the door behind me. I didn't tell anyone, didn't trust anyone, but the texts kept coming, more aggressive. "You can't hide. Marcus, I know where you sleep." I went to the library, dug through old campus newspapers, anything to find Daniel Kerr. A 1997 article mentioned the fire, started in 312, cause unknown, no injuries, but the building was evacuated. Daniel was quoted, said he'd lost everything, planned to leave Westbridge. Another article buried in the archives caught my eye. A student in 1995, Emily Tate, reported a stalker who sent her notes describing her day, her clothes, her habits. She lived in Carver Hall, 3rd floor. She transferred after a month, said, "The campus wasn't safe." No suspect was named, but a grainy photo showed a man in the background, blurred, standing outside Carver. I couldn't see his face, but something about his posture. Slouched, head tilted, felt familiar, like I'd seen him in the quad, or outside my window. The texts were relentless now, every few hours. "You wore the red hoodie today. You left. Your history book in the lecture hall. I'm watching you right now." I stopped going to class, stayed in my dorm with the curtains drawn, but even that wasn't safe. One night I got a text. "Look outside." I didn't want to, but my hand moved anyway, pulling the curtain an inch. Across the quad, under a street light, a figure stood. Dark jacket, head down, phone in hand. He didn't move, just stood there. And my phone buzzed again. "I see you too." I dropped the curtain, heart hammering, and called security. By the time they checked, he was gone. No trace, just a cold spot in the air where he'd been. I started sleeping in the library, hiding in study rooms. But the texts found me. 4th floor, 3rd Carroll. You're not safe. I went to Hargrove. Again, showed him the phone from 312, the texts, the article about Emily. He took it seriously this time, said they'd investigate, but his eyes said he was out of his depth. That night I stayed with Jake, thinking 2 of us might scare the guy off. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Jake can't help you." I woke him, told him everything, and he made me promise to leave campus, stay with his cousin in town. I packed a bag, planned to go at dawn, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being followed, even in Jake's room. Last night I left Carver Hall at 1 a.m., bag over my shoulder, heading for the parking lot to catch a bus off campus. The quad was empty, the air sharp with frost. My phone was off, battery out, but I felt it, eyes on me, heavy as a hand. I walked faster, the lot in sight, when my pocket vibrated. I froze. I'd turned the phone off, I was sure of it. I pulled it out, hands shaking, and the screen lit up. A new text from that same number. "Look behind you." My breath caught, and I heard them. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching gravel maybe 10 feet back. I didn't look. Couldn't. Just ran, my bag bouncing, my lungs burning. The footsteps followed, faster now, keeping pace. I reached the lot, fumbled my keys, and dove into my car, locking the doors. The footsteps stopped and I looked up. Nobody was there, just shadows and streetlights. I drove to Jake's cousin's place, didn't sleep, kept the lights on. The texts stopped, but I found something in my bag this morning. A scrap of paper, slipped into a pocket I hadn't opened. It said, "I'm still here." I checked the campus records again, found one last clue. Daniel Kerr's student ID photo, grainy but clear enough. He had that same slouch, that tilted head, like the man in Emily's photo, like the figure under the streetlight. I don't know if it's him, or something using his name, his phone, his room. I'm off campus now, staying low, but I feel it still. That weight of being watched. I'm telling you this because I need it to be real, to be heard, before I disappear. Like Emily, like Daniel, like the others I'm sure are out there. If you're at Westbridge, if your phone buzzes with a text that knows too much, don't answer. Don't look, because he's out there, and he's waiting for you to turn around. The neon sign at the Starlight Diner buzzes like a trapped hornet, casting a sickly red glow over the parking lot in Mill Haven, where I pour coffee for truckers and drifters on the night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The diner's a 24-hour beacon. In this nowhere town, its windows wide enough to see every move I make. Wiping counters, refilling sugar jars, forcing a smile for the regulars. I came to Mill Haven to save for a future that feels further away every night. But 3 months ago, something changed. A man started standing out there in the parking lot every night after midnight, watching me through the glass. His eyes burn into me, and now with a note under my wiper that says, "I know your schedule." I'm unraveling, chasing a truth that's turning my life into a nightmare I can't wake from. It began on a slow Tuesday, the kind where the clock barely moves. I was clearing a table, scraping ketchup off a plate when I felt it. A prickle on my neck, like someone was staring. I looked up, and there he was, just beyond the streetlight's reach, a shadow in a dark coat, face half hidden by a scarf. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stood by the payphone, his gaze locked on me. I thought he was a drifter, maybe waiting for a ride, but he was back the next night, and the next, always in the same spot, always watching. I tried to ignore him, told myself it was nothing, but my hands shook when I carried trays. And I started, checking the locks twice before taking out the trash. A week later, I found the first note. It was 6 a.m., the sky bruised with dawn, and I was dragging myself to my car, a beat-up hatchback parked by the diner's back door. Tucked under the wiper was a slip of paper folded neat with block letters in black ink. "I know your schedule." My heart stopped. I spun around, scanning the lot, but it was empty. No man, no coat, just the hum of the neon sign, and the distant rumble of a truck on the highway. I crumpled the note, shoved it in my pocket, and drove home, checking my rearview mirror every second, my pulse hammering. I showed the note to my manager, Ed, a guy with a smoker's cough and no patience for drama. He squinted at it, muttered about kids pulling pranks, but his eyes darted to the windows. "You sure you saw someone?" he asked. I nodded, my throat tight. "Every night, Ed. He's out there watching." Ed promised to check the lot, even called the police, but they found nothing. No prints, no tracks, just gravel and cigarette butts. I started parking closer to the door, carrying a pocket knife I bought at the gas station. Its weight a small comfort in my apron. The calls started a week later. The diner's phone would ring, always after 2 a.m., when the place was near empty. I'd pick up, expecting a drunk or a wrong number, but a voice, low, calm, like he was ordering pie, would ask, "Is Sarah there? When's her shift end?" My name, my hours, spoken like he knew me. I'd slam the phone down, my hands trembling, but it kept ringing, sometimes from the payphone outside, which hasn't worked in years. I told Ed, and he banned the calls, set up a block, but they slipped through. Always the same voice, always asking for me. "Sarah, what time do you leave? Do you walk alone?" I stopped answering the phone, let it ring until the cooks yelled at me to make it stop. I tried changing my routine. I'd leave early, slip out at 5 a.m. instead of 6, take different roads to my apartment, a cramped one-bedroom over the laundromat. But he was always there in the lot, his silhouette sharper now, like he was stepping closer each night. I'd see him as I locked up, his scarf shifting in the wind, his eyes catching the light like a cat's. Once I swore he smiled, a thin, knowing curve that made my stomach lurch. I started carrying a flashlight, shining it into the lot, but he'd vanish before the beam hit him, like he was part of the shadows. 2 weeks ago, I found another note. You can't hide. It was tucked into my car's door handle, the ink smudged like it was written in a hurry. I didn't tell Ed this time. He'd just shrug, say I was paranoid. Instead, I went to the library, dug through old newspapers, looking for anything. A stalker, a case like mine. I found a story from 2005 about a waitress named Clara Vance, who worked the night shift at the Starlight. She'd reported a man in the parking lot, watching her, leaving notes. I know where you go, one said. She'd heard calls too, from that same broken payphone. The police never caught him. Clara quit, left Millhaven, and no one heard from her again. My hands shook as I read, because her note sounded like mine, her fear felt like mine. I found a logbook in the diner's storage room, buried under boxes of napkins. Clara's handwriting filled the pages. Man in lot again. Watches me every night. Ed won't listen. Her last entry was dated the day she left. He was by my car tonight, waiting. I'm done. I checked the police report from 2005, tucked in the library's archives. Clara had seen him at closing, standing by her car, his coat flapping in the wind. She'd run back inside, called the cops, but he was gone when they arrived. The report mentioned a witness, a trucker who saw a man in a dark coat slip a note under her wiper. But he couldn't describe the face, just the eyes, like they saw through you. Last week it got worse. I was locking up, the diner empty, the clock ticking past 6 a.m. I glanced at the lot, and there he was, not by the payphone but by my car, his hand on the hood, like he was claiming it. I froze, my keys slipping in my sweaty palm. He didn't move, just stared, his scarf loose, his face still hidden but closer than ever. I ran back inside, barricaded the door with a chair, and called Ed from the diner phone. He came in, checked the lot, found nothing but a new note on my windshield. I see you. I didn't drive home that night. I slept in the diner's break room, curled on a cot, the knife in my hand. I've been digging deeper, trying to understand who he is, what he wants. I found a 1980s article about another waitress, Ellen, who worked here and vanished after reporting a watcher in the lot. Her car was found abandoned, a note inside. You're mine. The pattern's there, stretching back decades. Women, night shifts, notes, calls, always the same man, or something wearing a man's shape. I asked old Pete, a regular who's been coming since the 70s. He went quiet, then whispered. Some say he's not real, say the diner's cursed, pulls in something that hunts the women who work here. I laughed it off, but his eyes were serious, and I haven't laughed since. The calls are relentless now, every night, sometimes twice. Sarah, you look tired. Sarah, why don't you come outside? The voice knows things, my favorite coffee mug, the way I tie my apron, the song I hum when I'm alone. I've stopped humming. I've stopped parking in the lot, started getting rides from a co-worker. But he's still there, waiting in the shadows, his eyes finding me through the windows. I bought a lock for my apartment, check it 3 times before I sleep. But I dream of him, his scarf unwinding, his face still hidden, his hands reaching. Last night I saw him inside the diner. It was 3 a.m., the place dead except for a drunk asleep in a booth. I was refilling the ketchup when I looked up, and he was there, sitting at the counter, his coat dripping wet like he'd walked through a storm. His scarf was down, but his face, I couldn't see it, like it was blurred, like my eyes refused to focus. He didn't speak, just pointed at the coffee pot. I poured it, my hands shaking so bad I spilled half the cup. When I looked again, he was gone. The stool empty, the coffee cold. but there was a note on the counter. Tonight. I locked myself in the break room, called the police, but they found nothing. No prints, no witnesses, just the note in my handwriting, which I swear I didn't write. I'm still working the shift because I need the money, because I won't let him win. But I'm scared more than I've ever been. I've got a flashlight, a knife, a can of mace in my apron. I check the lot every hour, keep the radio on to drown out the phone. The regulars notice I'm jumpy, but they don't ask, and I don't tell. I found one last clue in Clara's logbook, tucked in the back. He's not a man, he's the diner's shadow, and it's hungry. I don't know what that means, but I feel it. The diner's different now, the air heavier, the windows like eyes watching back. I'm closing tonight, and I know he'll be there, by my car, waiting. I'm telling you this because I need someone to know, because if I don't come back, I want you to find that note, find my story, and make sure he doesn't take anyone else. The starlight's still open, the neon's still buzzing, but something's out there, and it's got my name.